I tried to fix it. Hey, good to see you. How you been? There is one. Right.
I was at building 4. I watched that one.
I just looked at him today.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
I appreciate something.
Yeah, Janice and Chase,
Well, I don't have it on yet,
Okay, well,
Really?
but
Let
I
me
don't
hear
think
it.
it's gonna work.
okay, well, let me know.
Yes, but I
Nice shirt.
think they're having.
Where Excel?
Yeah, Excel.
I don't have too many double lights, but.
I'll tell you what.
You bring this up.
You know what?
Yep.
I got my second.
All right.
4th year in a row. This is your show then.
It's our show.
Well,
We don't think so. Last time we did this church. But. They're great. We sent out certified and certified now. And I think it's like, got it. I don't know. Maybe.
but I'm known to my mailbox.
Okay, let's kick things off with an introduction from our interpreter.
Hello, thank you for having us here and for practicing language justice. I am here with the Communal Language Cup, and we are here to help create a space to so everyone can participate and engage in the language of their heart or the language that they feel most comfortable in. When we turn on interpretation, you will see a globe icon at the bottom of your screen that says interpretation. Please select your preferred language. Hola, muy buenas tardes. Estamos aquí con la Communal Language Co-op. Estamos aquí para ayudar a crear un espacio donde todos puedan participar, involucrarse en el idioma de su corazón o en el idioma en el que se sientan más cómodos. Usaremos la interpretación simultánea. Por favor, seleccione su idioma preferido. Abajo en su pantalla verá un icono de globo que dice interpretación. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I'll call this Sheridan City Council work session to order for July 8th, 2024. The time is 6:03 p.m. and we have all council members present. Our first item tonight is the employee handbook updates.
Thank you, Mayor. One moment. Let me get the right document opened here. Okay. So this evening, at least for the work session, let me kind of preface what we're going to be doing tonight. We will be reviewing in this work session amendments to our employee handbook, which is the handbook that governs our employee practices and compensation, any number of things, right? All the things that our personnel requirements and rules and regulations that we have for our employees here is encompassed in that document. We were going to have it on your agenda for your regular council meeting as council needs to adopt and approve our employee handbook. We're going to ask the council move that to the agenda at our next meeting, which will be the 22nd, July 22nd. We need to put a clean copy into your packet and have that just as part of the record. So there won't be any changes from after what you've seen this evening, but that will allow us to make sure that we're being really clear about what we're adopting there, because sometimes a markup document can be less than clear on that, and we'll make sure we get that done. Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll go over it tonight at the work session and answer any questions that you might have, and then adopt on the 22nd. And that'll be just via resolution that the council approves that. So if you'll go into your packets, you have a memo that looks something like this. It's a list of items, 14 items long, that kind of go over the significant changes that have been made to our employee handbook. And I should also mention that our HR consultant from CPS HR, Jennifer Houston, is online with us right now. So she couldn't be in person, but she can be here online. So if we have real specific questions, because Jennifer and our city attorneys worked together on this document, they can ask or answer hopefully any specific type of questions that you guys might have. So let me get in here. So I'm going to be using the reference that we have here for these changes here to walk us through the changes that we'll see. And I'm probably going to throw in a few of my own as well. So if you go into your packet and you start paging through the document itself, the red line document, you'll get to, let's see, it'll be page. Oops, sorry. Come on, notebook. Pages 8 and 9 will encompass some of the first changes that we have. These have to do with the equal employment opportunity harassment and sexual harassment policies. These have all been updated to include language that is current with the Colorado Protecting Workers' Rights Act of 2023. And again, a lot of the changes that you'll see in this document this evening are mandated through either new changes or new requirements in state and federal law that we will be sure that we're complying with. So that is, again, looking at our equal employment opportunity, our harassment, sexual harassment policies that are in there. If we go then to, and please stop me at any time if you see something, if I skip over something that you might be interested in. I'm trying to just kind of hit the highlights and not every single edit that was in there for just wordsmithing purposes. I'm moving now to, it would be page 13. I've got two sets of page numbers in the packet. Which one is which that I'm looking at? Is that one or that one? The bottom one? Okay. Thank you. So it'll be page 10 on the handbook at page 13 in your packet. There's a changes made under ADA and religious accommodation. It really just includes language that the city cannot retaliate against an employee for any types of claims under ADA religious accommodations. We already, we're looking at, we cover these and we make sure that we mention these in our employee handbook. Again, making sure that we've got updated language in there. Moving now to pages, we have a number of changes that go through here, just making changes that will make our language gender neutral. So a lot of his and hers that have been removed to say there. You'll see that throughout the document. If we move to pages 17 and 18 in your packet, which would be pages, I'm going to start with page 14 in the document itself. We have employment records request. This has been updated with current language for records requests. We've seen that we've been generating many more records requests, and making sure that when we have this kind of information with regards to employment records that are requested, that it is a formalized process. They have to go through a formal records request process. Whereas, you know, in the past, a lot of those were handled via just a phone call or something like that. We want to make sure that we are making sure that we're following a records request process for those. So those changes were made in that section. If we go to page 19 on the packet, let's see, hold on. I think I'm steering you guys wrong. 1 second.
19 on the handbook.
Yeah, I am. Hold on. I'm referencing the wrong numbers. So what I just said about employment records requests is page 20 in your packet and 17 in the document. Again, making sure that any kind of employee records follow a formal records request and what kind of information we'll have out there for employment verification. Okay. The page 20 in the document itself, we have changes in there that talk about appearance and dress was updated to reflect the new city policy regarding dress code for City Hall. We did update our dress code for City Hall. It was very minimal, I think, at first. So we've developed something, and this was with employee input through our employee wellness committee, and worked with them to develop a more thorough dress code, which at the same time is trying to acknowledge some of the, especially since COVID and the return to the office, you know, as everybody said, has reflected a little bit more of a casual dress code in a lot of offices and a lot of workplaces. We're not going completely off that, but we really needed to kind of have a document, a guiding document that helped employees with decisions about that. We are allowing a little bit more leeway maybe than we had previously. For example, allowing jeans. In the way we used to have a casual Friday where we would allow jeans, and it was very popular, as a lot of other places do. Now we will allow jeans any of our work day as long as they're, you know, no holes, not faded out, not stringy, not too baggy, not too, right? So employees would hopefully using their best judgment and can wear jeans. If they're going to be at a council meeting, you notice I have blue pants, but they're not jeans. And but know your audience, right? Know your where you're going to be. If you're representing the city, make sure you're dressing appropriately. And we did not include all that specificity. The policy itself, we did not want to include in this document. Any changes to the employee handbook require council approval. And we try and keep those generally to a minimum. We're at maybe every other year or so, we'll make some amendments to the handbook, so that we're not in here constantly amending this. We're looking at the dress code policy as well as a new remote work policy that was developed through our employees as well, to be 2 standalone policies that are referenced in here but not included in here, so that we can make changes or be a little bit more adaptable with those policies, the dress code and the remote work policy. While I'm on it, the remote work policy now requires is designed to allow those employees who can work remotely the ability to do so. I think one of the best things that came out of COVID is that we out of necessity made the changes that allowed most of our employees to be able to work remotely, other than the folks that are used to working in the field. So we have the technology available for them. Most everybody's set up with internet that needs it, those kind of things. We really didn't have a guiding policy to go along with that. So again, asked our employees to advise us on that. Now we have a form that employees will fill out with their supervisor to make sure that if they are going to be allowed to work remotely, they're scheduling that appropriately. Right now, to start off with, we're allowing those that can to work remotely 8 hours a week, not on Mondays, not on Fridays, but on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. They're eligible with permission of their supervisors to do some remote work for the city. And again, that's relatively new, and we want to be able to be flexible with that. And if we need to make changes on the fly with that, to do so. And again, if we put all that particulars in this document, it's difficult to change that because it has to go to council. But we'll let you know how those are going. I mean, so far, I think they've been well received. We don't have a lot of people that applies to, actually, because we're so small on our staff. You know, we have a lot of one-person departments and such. So in order for people to have service here at City Hall, their presence is requested or required a lot to be here. So. Okay, so that is the major changes with appearance and dress. The next page, page 21 in the document, the political activities policy was updated to reflect the Protections for Public Workers Act. So you can see we had these types of considerations, protections in there, but these are primarily language changes to comply with the requirements of that particular act. Really what it does is that, you know, it protects our employees and a lot of their First Amendment rights, their rights to be engaged in their communities and so forth. Let's see, if we move to, let's see what my next one. Oh, the next page after that, page 22, I just want to point out for our council members that might not be aware of this, you'll see at the top of that page 22 of the document, we are an at-will employer here in Sheridan. Okay, so what that means is that the city at its sole discretion can conduct or anytime that we have a conduct or performance that falls short of expectations, we can impose corrective action and discipline up to and including termination. So it's not a progressive disciplinary structure that we have in place. And if you've ever worked in a place that has those, there are clear-cut steps that have to be taken as you move along towards or through employee corrective actions up to and finally getting to termination. Those are not required as we are at will, and our employees can be terminated at any time. We made that change, oh gosh, 7, 8, 9 years ago. It's been a little while that we made that change. Okay, let's see, that was page 22. On page 25, we have some changes we made to our workers' compensation language in there. The workers' compensation policy was updated to reflect the city's participation in the wage continuation program with the Colorado Department of Labor. We see the gist of that is that anybody that has an eligible claim for workers' compensation will receive their 2/3 of their average weekly wage from the city up to 90 days. This is just really in addition to our workers' compensation agreement that we had in the past here. So that brings us again into compliance with some new state regulations. If we go to page 20, let's see if I had something on the next one. Yes, 27. This is brand new. We have a distracted driving policy. So with the advent of cell phones, we used to have a provision in here, and I think you'll see it crossed out somewhere in here. I'm not exactly where, though. We didn't allow cell phones in city cars. Well, that doesn't work right anymore. But we did want to have something with regards to distracted driving, and this is at the recommendation of our insurer, CIRSA, to make sure that we're including this policy and training our employees on this. Again, they'll then give us credit when we have these kind of policies that have been adopted and trained on. But basically, this is the no texting and driving section. says that you have to use a hands-free type of device if you're in the car or any of our vehicles, and just clarifying how that will work there. Let's see. A lot of the changes that are coming in the next section are having to do with technology. And you can see this is where we've basically revamped the entire section that has to do with technology. And a lot of that is we had a section on technology, but that becomes outdated so quickly with all of the changes and trying to stay ahead of that. So we've added a whole new social media policy in here. A lot of it is with new, more general definitions and things that hopefully will stand the test of time. And we won't have to be in here, adjusting these things every 6 months or so, just to stay current with it. Let's see, the portion I wanted to point out in technology, in the middle of that, we have a section called personal use of social media outside of work. In the section, the language about halfway through the page reads that personnel are cautioned that while they do not relinquish their First Amendment rights, individuals who accept public employment must also accept that their personal use of social media outside of work can have bearing on department personnel in their official capacity and presents certain risks and carries with it certain responsibilities. As such, this policy provides information of a precautionary nature, as well as prohibitions on an employee's personal use of social media off duty or outside of work. Ultimately, the employees are responsible for what they post online. So we've got some direction in here, some best practice, and say we recommend you do this, we do this. We're not saying don't use social media. We are saying don't use social media on our computers here. All right, keep that on your computer, keep that on your phone. Don't have that on city equipment on city time. I personally, I don't mind if employees check their personal email. I don't care if that's the nature of the environment we live in now. And a lot of people communicate using different social medias. I mean, I know if I'm going to keep up on what my kids are doing, I better be tuned into it. So it's more kind of, a lot of this section is again kind of make employees aware that you are still, when you're out in social media, very many of you are a face of the community, you're a face of the city, and you need to be aware of that. You need to be conscious of that. Okay. There was another section in the next page, on page 30 of this. If you go about 2/3 of the way down, and we talk about speaking as a representative of the city, or implying that their speech has been endorsed, approved, or connected to the city in cases where an employee's personal use of social media may be perceived as being on behalf of the city, such as if an employee identifies oneself as a city employee, or is widely known to be a city employee. An employee shall include a visible disclaimer on their social media account to inform other users that their opinions are their own and do not represent those of the city of Sheridan. This is kind of just a continuation of a real basic policy that we've always had for employees and citizens. Like, look, you're free to express your opinions and do these things, but you need to also qualify that sometimes and let people know, hey, these are my opinions. This is not the opinion of my employer, which happens to be the city. It's not my opinion as the police chief. It's not my opinion as the city manager. It's my own personal one. And so just being clear about that when we use social media and again, trying to protect the employee as much as protecting the city on this as well. The next session, I won't go into detail, but I mean, we do talk about there is litigation. You can be held civilly liable for things that happen on social media, and you need to be aware of that. Okay, and please, not exposing the city, not exposing yourself. We do clarify on page 31, okay, what's a business use of social media? So we've talked about a personal use of social media, and we have a business use. And really, this boils down to, all right, authorized personnel only. So we will be designating people that are authorized at the city to post social media on behalf of the city. And it's very clear who those people will be. There's checks on that. There's permissions on all of that. And controls on that and on who posts on behalf of the city and who posts what to what social media accounts. We do want to make sure that we are active in social media because so many of our constituents are there and that's how we can reach them. Although I've been talking, I talk with staff often, I think the reader boards reach more people than anybody. It's amazing how well the reader boards work when we're trying to get a message out. But we want to make sure that we're really clear and define the differences between business social media and personal social media, what's appropriate for both of those. And really, on the business side of things, it's city business only. If it doesn't have a rational city nexus and it's not part of that, it doesn't need to be up there. So that's what a lot of these things go over. I'm not going to go through all of those because it's a lot of information in there, but that's the general gist of it in the primary takeaways. A lot of it's fairly common sense. We have access to a lot of confidential information. Don't be posting confidential information up online. Those kind of things like that. Okay, let's see if there was anything along through those I needed to talk with. I don't think so. And then the next all of our old policy is deleted. So if we go now to page 40, we made some changes to the telephones, cell phones, texting policy, and updated it to talk about our distracted driving policy as well. Again, this is talking about hands-free. You need to be if you're in a vehicle or doing anything mobile, those kind of things. So updating that language just to make sure we're accommodating the best practices and the safety with mobile devices. Let's see if we move to page 42 of the document. We talk about this is where we get into payroll and our compensation standards. We talk about paydays policies updated to include language that the city's pay periods will be changing. I think I mentioned this to council before, that we're changing to a bi-weekly pay period instead of a semi-monthly pay period. And hopefully this will simplify our pay standards and our especially when we're looking at how do we calculate things such as overtime, how do we calculate things such as special duty pay, how do we do a lot of those, because when you do bi-weekly, it's pretty straightforward. Every 2 weeks, just go. Semi-monthly can have some little odd changes from month to month. And that's what has hung up a lot of our employees. And with our timekeeping system, it was difficult to do a bi-monthly pay process, more difficult to calculate overtime, more difficult to calculate the special duty, all those kind of things like that. So this will simplify that hopefully for everybody, including council, who will get paid on a bi-weekly schedule as well. We're looking at doing that, kicking that off on September 1st. We, in conjunction with a lot of that, are, again, I think I mentioned this to the council as well, we're implementing some new software in as far as our timekeeping and benefits and our payroll processing. Hopefully streamline a lot of this, make it much easier for our employees, because we put a lot of this burden on the employees. They need to be keeping track of this. You need to keep track of your time and make sure that you're accurately reporting that. And this will make it much easier for them to do that. Let's see. Okay. I think I covered that. So if we go to page 43 in the document, reporting time worked has changed, reflect timekeeping system instead of it. So a lot of this is updating our payroll processes that we need to do. again, for pages 43, 44. Page 50 is I think a nice change that has been made. Let's see, hold on. Don't go to 50 yet. I just wanted to point out a few other things. When on page 45, it starts into descriptions of our benefits and employee development. We are a city that pays benefits for part-time eligible employees. Made a decision to do that several years ago. And so anybody that that's part-time, works between 30 and 40 hours, is eligible for city benefits at a prorated level. Okay, so not just our full-time employees are eligible for benefits. And I just wanted to make sure that our council was aware of that as well. Our benefits, and I think we've talked to council about this before, generally when we're talking about budget and putting the budget together for our annual benefit package, but we include medical, dental, vision, life insurance, long-term disability, AFLAC for those folks that want it. And again, all these are optional. In there, we provide a 457 plan, a 401A plan, and then our police officers are eligible for the FPPA, the Fire and Police Pension Association plan as well. None of those change. I just wanted to mention that so that council's aware of that. On page 47 of the document, I just want to point out, we do have tuition assistance for our employees. We're in the process right now. I'm working with our HR folks on putting a little more detail to that program, as far as just a little bit more criteria and some budget caps that'll go on that. But it's, I think, a nice benefit for some of our employees, and we have had employees that have taken advantage of that. Wanted you guys to know that that is supported in the budget as well. And then we also, on that page, we talk about employee development. I'm always encouraging our employees to go get the training they need, to go to conferences, to go to seminars. We put money in each department's budget to be able to pay for those trainings and those conferences and such, and hopefully most of our employees take advantage of that. Let's see. So I think with our time office stuff, not much of that has changed. Page 50 of the document, sick leave. There is an addition there to reflect the requirements under the Healthy Families and Workplace Act. It's kind of an expanded use of sick leave that allows for a family member whose school or place of care, so daycare or such, has been closed because of an unexpected occurrence. It could be weather, it could be pandemic, it could be a number of things, that the employees can use sick leave to help cover part of that. You can also use sick leave to augment bereavement leave now as well. So that's eligible to be used as well. So those have been some of the changes recently that have come down, and we wanted to make sure that we're adopting those as well to reflect a little bit more flexibility in that sick leave. Because we have a lot of employees that can build up considerable banks of sick leave. Don't get sick, don't take the time, and don't get me wrong. I encourage, and I think my employees would let you know that I encourage them, if they're not feeling well, stay home, use your sick leave. I'm never told anybody, oh, you need to tough it out and come in. No, use your sick leave. It's there for a reason. But a lot of folks you build up a big bank of sick leave and you really haven't been able to use it for too much. So it's kind of nice to be able to expand some of this. It's not very much, but it's being able to use some of that time, because we don't cash out sick leave. When you leave employment with the city, you can cash out your vacation, your comp time, but you can't cash out sick. So you have this big bank of sick time sitting there that you can't use. And hopefully this will help people be able to use it when they need it for some of these other uses as well. That is a real quick run through all the changes that we made that are significant. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have about this or any of these changes. And again, we have our city attorneys here, and we have Jennifer online. So if you have anything real specific, feel free to ask and I'm sure they can help us out.
I don't know how this would apply because, this is the employee handbook, but with Sheridan Celebrates, do we need to reexamine any social media?
Say it again, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Social media policies regarding Sheridan Celebrates, do we need to take a look at that? I know it's not from this because Jean's not an employee, she's a contractor, but you are putting controls over posting on behalf of the city.
I think that something like that would be more appropriate in a communications plan and some of the stuff that we've developed through our communications department.
Mhm.
And having something like that in there as opposed to this document.
Okay.
That would just be my recommendation. Again, council, depending on what it was, I guess we'd probably want to draft something up, which we're happy to do. You take a look at that and say, okay, where is this most appropriate? Where should this live? Should it live in the employee handbook? Should it live as a standalone document or in the communications plan, something like that?
Okay.
So be happy to do that, Mayor. You want to
Yeah, I
look
mean,
at
I don't
something
know
like
that I
that?
think anything's really broken, but
Yeah.
if there's certain guardrails that you want to have in general on city of social media, then we might want to take a look at Sheridan Celebrates and just make sure we're not going outside those lines.
Be happy to make sure that we're accommodating that in there for sure. And I think it's a good idea. The time you want to look at it is, like you said, we don't think we really have many problems with that, but that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Before you have a problem. Okay.
Devin, what about adding the charter to the employee handbook? A lot of people probably hear about it, but they probably don't know where to find it.
Well, I think the charter is almost required to be a standalone document.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure if at the front, I'd have to go look at, that's a good question, Terrence, as far as, I think at the beginning, but I'd have to go look that we kind of reference do we reference our charter and, like, usually in these kind of, we reference the federal laws, the state statutes, the city charter, or the governing, type of documentations that we have for that. I'm sorry. Is it referenced on page 21 of the document? Let me see if I can kind of guess where I am there. Oops, wrong.
Oh, that just talks about if you're elected, sorry.
But our governing documents and such, we can look at a reference, just to be clear about that.
Yeah. Because I
that
mean,
is-
I don't know if Anthony or Michael know where to find it or know anything about it. So that's.
Oh,
what I'm
just on the charter itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just thinking if we're revamping the workbook, I didn't know if that could be a part of it, but if it has to be a standalone, then I understand.
Yeah, I think so. We could do a reference, in this document and reference it as a controlling document that could have impact on some of this, especially as we are what am I trying to say? Home rule city. And so we have some authorities that are granted unto us to be able to set forth some documents and requirements and things like that that would normally be governed by the state. We can do some things separate than that. So yeah, we can look and see if it makes sense to do some reference on that. Other than that, just to answer your question, the charter is on the website. You can go on the website, get on there. I think it's even searchable. On the
It
website.
is like,
Yeah.
I know where to find it. I know
Yeah.
about it, but I'm just saying, in case any of the other,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't really for us. We're not employees.
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, but I mean, one thing I've been thinking about maybe trying to get done before I'm not mayor anymore is some sort of council handbook.
A council handbook, right? Yeah.
And that would definitely need to have reference to the
Yeah.
charter because that's important to understand what your responsibilities are and your code of conduct and all that kind of stuff.
Right. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
And we've got, and as anybody who's sat down and kind of done the orientation with me, I have a lot of that stuff kind of loose in
Right.
here and there, and we'll give you copies of it, but we could do something a little bit more centralized. I know several cities do that, and there's a couple good examples and a couple good examples of that I've seen from some managers I know. We can absolutely start working on that.
Yeah.
We do have a welcome
Yeah.
packet that has the
Yeah.
charter, code of ethics, code of conduct that was given out at the beginning, and then anyone who runs as an elected official gets one, and it has all of the documents already contained in a binder form.
Mhm.
So if anybody would like a copy of that, I can get you one.
I
We,
think
we can
that's
certainly put
true,
something
but
kind
like
of
to get a
formalize it
one-way-
all in
there's something
together
that's
in
a little
one place.
more,
Yeah, a
um,
digital notebook.
I mean, there's more topics, I guess, to
Yeah.
get to, because like, for example, reimbursements. Like, we don't have any real policy about what we're allowed to
Yep.
be reimbursed for, you know? Well, at least I've never seen it documented anywhere.
No,
what
no, I don't think
council's
we
allowed to
do, yeah.
You know?
For elected, so we absolutely have it for our employees, but not
Yeah.
for electeds really.
So I mean, I
Okay.
think there's other topics that you could even use this as a model for, like the one, pick out which things actually apply to us and don't. And
Yes, I'd love to get with you on that and
Okay.
get it put together.
awesome.
Hey, Devin,
Mm-hmm.
I got one question about the military.
Okay.
What about reservists? You know, do they get charged for their vacation time if they go on have their 2 weeks out of the summer?
No, no. So we make all accommodations for anybody that has to serve or does serve on the reserves.
Mhm.
And we have had employees in the past that do that.
Uh-huh.
And we make accommodations for them per the state and federal laws for that. And they,
So they won't get.
I don't
charged?
remember exactly how that works, but I think it's, so they get compensated when they go on special duty, reservist duty, and they're supposed to, I believe, provide that compensation to the city and we pay the employee, or kind of whichever's more they get to keep. I can't remember exactly how we work it, but we do allow, so they don't lose out at
Okay.
all, right? So they don't end up losing money at all. We make sure that we accommodate, not only are we required to keep their job for them, and do all of that, but, making sure that they are kept whole as well. Chief?
There is some other parts in there when they go for an extended period of time, like we have an officer who's been gone for about 9 months, 10 months, and we follow the federal law on that. But there does come a time where he's not being paid by the city anymore because he's being paid by the military.
Yeah,
But we still keep his job. That's one thing that of course we do, but we follow the federal laws on that.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on the handbook?
I had two just minor things that just more like housekeeping thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
On page 24 of the packet, on the first bullet, there's gonna be 2 acts in a row. The one just needs to be omitted. And then on page 29 of the packet, on F, this should be Clean Indoor Air Act instead of Air Indoor.
Which page was that? Michael? I'm sorry,
29 in the packet.
29 in the packet. Let me get there real quick. And it was under smoke-free, what was it?
Yeah, under F,
Mm-hmm.
it's Clean Indoor Air Act.
Air Act, gotcha. Clean Air Indoor Act, right? Okay, gotcha. I found it. Thank you very much for those.
Devin, I have one that I should have brought up to you before and I apologize, but on bereavement leave, we have up to 5 work days. And I was wondering if we would reconsider putting 40 hours because I think we're trying to accommodate like up to a week.
Mhm.
But our officers work 10-hour days and we would give them a week, but I don't want them to say it says you get 5 days, which
Yep.
would be 50 hours.
That makes it.
Do we put in hours
Yep.
instead of
Yep.
days? Would that make sense?
I think that we can absolutely do that.
Okay, sorry, I
page
should have
was
brought
that?
that up earlier. 64.
64.
Yeah,
Okay.
should have told you that. I just noticed it now.
Quick. 5 days, right? And make that 40 hours.
40 hours.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we found the more and more that you can do things in hours seems to be much more
Mhm.
flexible, giving the employees the flexibility that they need to be able to do what they need to do. Is very much so. So. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
Like
Well,
it.
thank you. And again, on behalf of the employees, we thank the city council. You guys have always been very supportive of our city staff. And we appreciate you with supporting us through these documents such as this that, make this a good place to work and make the employees feel valued. And that you guys as a council have always done that and our staff, and we appreciate that. So thank you. Next item is I did a little handout here for you guys. It's the Arapahoe County Ballot Measure Survey. So this was sent to me a week or so ago. Just wanted to take real quick, go over this. And I'm sorry, the hard copy that you have has my scribbles in it. So I couldn't find a clean copy. So you get my copy that has the blue scribbles all over it. But basically, as you'll recall, Commissioner Warren Gully came to the council, a few weeks ago and talked to us about some of the budget issues that the county's undergoing and that they're looking at potential ballot questions to help them remedy some of these budget issues that the county is experiencing. They've employed a strategist, Magellan Strategies. They do all of their survey work for them, and they're asking questions, basically 2 questions out there with regards to either a debrucing question or a sales tax question. Right, so debrucing would be through the Tabor Act, which would allow them to keep the monies that they've already brought in and not have to do taxpayer rebates based on the Tabor formula. So they would generate additional revenue. Well, they wouldn't generate, they'd get to keep revenue that they've already generated and apply those towards their budget needs, or they're floating the idea of a sales tax increase. And I think the question that they're looking at is a 0.25% sales tax increase, and as an alternative, and looking at that. I will share with you what I've shared with all the county commissioners every time I've met with them and they've asked me about this, is that I'm not excited about a sales tax question from the county, because that's dipping into our pot of money at the municipal level. It makes it more difficult for us to be able to accommodate any future adjustments to sales tax on behalf of our constituents here. Adds to our the load on our sales tax base. So I'm not terribly excited about that. I very much support them moving forward with doing a Tabor question, debrucing. You guys know this, but majority of municipalities out in Colorado that have gone through a debrucing question have been successful at it. So the support in the public is out there for doing this kind of an effort. And I think one of the takeaways that you'll see from this document, and I'm not going to go through it page by page, I'll just give you what I see as a couple of the takeaways. But what this document shows to me is they're really, of all the alternatives that are thrown out there, the only one that comes towards a threshold of being supported by the public out there is one of the debrucing, one of the Tabor questions, which I think they call it Tabor question B or something like that. Anyway, so just paging through here really quick, if you go to like page 5, it talks about the May results compared to February results. What you'll see is that in February, it was supported, the options or the ideas of being able to do some of this were being a little bit more supported. And this is normal as they go through, as the year goes along and you get closer to the election, these kind of questions tend to lose steam and they tend to lose support the further and the closer you get. And that's what we're seeing here. So you're seeing that the support, where they, what people might generally see as favorable to them in some kind of a question like that, is dropping as the year goes along here. Again, that's not unusual. The next page, page 6, how many people have you seen or even heard about this that maybe cuts to essential services? Over half the people haven't even heard of that. That's not surprising at all. If we go and page through a little bit, or you get to page 10, they start talking about some of the numbers brought in when they talk about sales tax increase ballot measure. You see that there's a pie chart over there that 51% is where that's kind of polling at the moment as far as support for a 25%, or I'm sorry, a 0.25% sales tax increase. That is way too low at this time of the year to be felt that you'd even have a chance of being successful at the ballot. You need to be between 60 and 70% on this type of a survey and this type of input for you to have a reasonable chance of being successful at the polls. That's what political consultants will tell you, that you need to have really kind of overwhelming support to be able to go for it, especially if it's a tax question, a sales tax or property tax question. So that is 51% support for a question of that level at this late in the year is very, very low. The next page on there, page 11, again, the same thing, kind of made as February, it's losing support as it moves along through here. What are some of the other takeaways? If you go to page 15, where they talk about a Tabor version B ballot measure. So again, this is a question saying, which is on the page before, it says, okay, without increasing tax rates and doing all this kind of, we want to de-Bruce and keep the monies that we've already raised and be able to use that for repairing, maintaining, improving county roads, crime prevention, homeless prevention, all those kind of things like that. It's the only question that they have that they've surveyed that comes close to reaching a threshold of support that if I was a political consultant and was advising that elected body, that I would say, hey, you might have a reasonable chance of being successful if you do this. So they reached 60% of support for that Tabor version, which again is good. I think that's good for us. I'm happy for them. I hope that they're able to be successful in something. And you know, as I've said, my preference is that they do a de-Bruce or a Tabor question. This is showing that at least what I've seen from their numbers that they've got right now is the only thing that even comes close to having the kind of support that they need to move forward with a question. So that's at least positive, is that they've got something on the Tabor side that they can maybe use and move forward with. Kind of going through this is just more that, you know, points out more of the same. On page 20, they kind of show an overall comparison of the Tabor questions. I'm not even sure exactly what the differences in all the Tabor language was. I didn't read through it that closely, but again, it shows that there's only one that shows a version B that comes close to having the kind of support that you'd need to move forward with that. The next page, on page 21, it just shows that out of all of this stuff, the sales tax is the least popular out of the questions that they're trying to bring forward. And, you know, those kind of numbers like that, it's just, it's kind of a non-starter, and that's my opinion. Moving on through here, page 24, we talk about, okay, and they say what kind of information out there will help people to support these kind of questions. And, you know, it's roads and bridges, it's traffic mitigation, public safety, homeless prevention. Those are the things that are scoring big up there. So these are the things that they need to be out talking about. If you start talking about quality of life and cuts to nonprofit services, things like that, that doesn't really start to push the needle for them at all. So they need to really, really hammer in on all right, the services that would be impacted by this are your roads and bridges, your public safety, your homeless prevention, those kind of things. That's what's registering with people. And then the last takeaway, I think the last one I got on that, on page like 27, they say influence of local officials supporting or opposing the county's tax ballot measure. If they decide to go with one of these questions, and they won't go with both, but they'll have to go with one if they go, then they'll be coming to you as a council and asking for your support, whichever one they decide, either the Tabor question or a sales tax question. And then they wanted to kind of see, well, what does that do? All right, if you know your mayor, your council supports or doesn't support this, how much is that going to influence you? And basically what these numbers say is not much. It's just not going to matter to folks really that much if you guys take a stance one way or the other on this. There's going to be a few that's going to sway, but it's not going to be enough to move a needle. Even if they get all the mayors and all the councils in Arapahoe County supporting one way or the other, it's still not going to, that's not going to sway it. That's not going to carry the water on this. So just so you know, I want you guys to be aware of that, that you don't have to, it's not the end all of the world if you decide that you don't want to support one of these, or if you do want to support it, really, you know. Yeah, I think my note on page 29 is that it won't move the needle. And then if you guys want to look at this, you can, you know, it goes into some more about, you know, some of the rationale that people give about why they'll either support or reject. something on page 31, why would you reject a 1/4% sales tax increase? High tax burden and financial strain. Absolutely dead on. They got that right. And that's why that's not gonna go anywhere. My opinion again is that the message, the winning message to get this supported is that we want to not raise taxes. We want to use the monies we're already collecting under Tabor, be able to keep those and be able to use those to prevent your services from getting cut. That's their message. They need to get out there and say that. Whether they have enough time to do that, I don't know. My opinion is you need to be messaging that for like a year beforehand. 51% of people have never even heard of this right now. So I don't know. But that's my quick take on this. I'll try and find the email. I couldn't find the email. I was gonna send you guys the e-version. I'll find it and send it to you though. So you have that if you want to share this out with some people. Interesting information.
Mhm.
Any questions on that?
That is pretty interesting that, you know, it was like, is it 37% say if we say we support it, they'll oppose it?
I know, I
Does that mean we
Mayor, I read that
shouldn't?
twice. I
Even
read
if
that
we,
twice and said,
even if we
"Am I
support it,
not-
maybe we shouldn't say anything?
yeah. I'm not sure that that's, that might be a little bit, because I read that same thing going, what? It doesn't quite make sense, but yeah, right. Otherwise they just be coming out going, asking you guys to oppose everything. Yeah. Anybody else, anything on that? I'd be happy to answer any other questions right now. I don't have a lot from my manager's report. I think that was mostly kind of those. Oh, come on. That was it, but let me just, oh no, Mayor, if I may,
Yeah,
just two quick
ahead,
items
yeah.
and then that's done. My manager's report. Bonsai Flats, we have run into a delay with the leasing side of things. So nothing to do with the construction or labor issues or things like that. But on the leasing side, on the leasing company they're working with, they're on a bit of a delay. However, they don't believe that they're very confident that they'll still have the project leased up by the end of the year. Most likely they're calling November. They'll have the project leased up. Under their tax credits, they got their LIHTC tax credits. They have to have it leased up by the end of the year. And they're still feeling very confident that they'll meet that deadline very easily. But they're just put a little bit of a hold on the lease out and beginning that. In discussions with them, they've said it, they've worked with this leasing company before and they've leased out similar types of projects and they go like that. So they're not concerned about that. I think they want to take the time, just make sure they're doing it right. So the update on that. The navigation center with ready to work, all that is on schedule and moving along. So that's still good. So a lot of things kind of right now are no news is good news. Things are moving along. We're in the heat of the construction season right now, and everybody's going gangbusters on projects. We do have, hopefully we'll get some of our our smaller concrete jobs that have been wanting done this week and next. I'm hopeful. We'll have Martin Marietta out. Now that we approved the contract that council approved on that, be able to get some of those smaller things we haven't been able to get done. When we move from spring to summer, you get a lot of heaving and things going on like that. So we've got some sidewalks on Federal that have heaved and are buckled. And one or two of them by themselves is not enough to entice a contractor out to do the work, but we got enough and we've rolled that into the other stuff that we've contracted with Martin. So hopefully those smaller jobs will start to get addressed here soon. I think that's about it, Mayor.
Great. Anything, we have one item on our agenda then?
Oh,
tonight?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Do we need
So,
to cover anything on that?
yeah. So, did you want to cover that with the volunteer fire
Yeah, I
pension
guess I can
board?
do that. So, Ernie and I are both representatives on the Volunteer Fire Pension Board. At the last meeting, they looked at the actuarial study that they pay for every other year, I think it is, to show how well-funded that pension is. And it usually lays out some different options for them, different rate increases, and how those rate increases would impact the funding that's available for the pension. And all of those different rate increase options looked fine. I mean, they all left, you know, like a healthy amount of funding for the pensioners. And so John Say on the board made the case that they wanted to go for a higher increase this year than they have been due to the inflation impacts. And they had been keeping it pretty low,
Yeah.
like 2 to 3%, I think, maybe
Yeah.
4 at the most in the last few years.
Mhm.
So it really was kind of lagging behind where inflation is going now. So they recommended a 7% increase, and that's what we'll have on the agenda tonight. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. That's it. All right, anything else that we need to talk about before we get into the meeting? No,
I don't think so.
okay,
Anybody else?
we'll adjourn the work session
Okay.
at 6:59 PM.
Se cierra la sesión a las 6:59 PM.
You did that?
Hiciste eso.
And we'll have if you could introduce the interpretation again, and then we'll start our regular meeting.
Muchas gracias por tenernos aquí. Thank you very much for having us here. Vamos a activar la interpretación. Usted va a ver un icono de globo abajo en su pantalla. Por favor, seleccione su idioma preferido. Una vez que lo haga, puede silenciar el audio original. Va a ver ese icono de globo. Please select your preferred language. Thank you very much. Please go ahead and turn on interpretation.
Thank you. The council members will get logged on to our meeting software, and we'll be ready to go. Okay. I will call to order the regular meeting of the Sheridan City Council for July 8th, 2024. The time is 7 PM. Everyone, please sign in. We have all council members present. Will you please rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, please remind us to use the time you have given us to add something of value to the day. Please help us to realize that this added value is especially beneficial to us when, without obligation or expectation of payback, it is freely given. Please show us that a smile, a wave, a helping hand, seemingly simplistic things add much more value to the day than we normally realize. Impress upon us that everything on your earth and in your universe are intricately interconnected, and that we as humans need to show more respect for these conditions of your design. Please foster our internal growth so that we will show more compassion for the plights of all living things you have placed around us. Please make us comprehend that the various talents you have allowed each of us are gifts from you and must be shared with others with proper humility. Please encourage us to remove from our minds the many emotional blinders that daily keep us from seeing the overwhelming beauty surrounding us. Please help us to better ourselves when no one else is watching, and benefit those around us with patience, communication, and support. Amen.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight we'll be removing Resolution 19 from the agenda.
That is correct, Madam Mayor. We'll be bringing that back with a clean copy.
All right. No other changes.
No other changes.
Okay, next we have staff reports. City Clerk.
Yes, thank you. Just one update. Reagan is going to be attending Institute next week for the Colorado Municipal Clerks. And then I will be joining him for a couple sessions that I'll be teaching, but he'll be out all week. So
Okay, great.
Yep.
Good to hear.
that's all I have.
City Attorney.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here as always, but nothing to report.
Okay. It's just slow over there, huh? City Manager, anything else you thought of you want to share?
No, Mayor, happy to answer any questions though.
Thank you. Chief?
Two quick things, just a reminder about the car show this Saturday, if you're available, 2 to 8 PM. And I just want to say thanks to Councilman Moreno for riding with the police officers last week. That was goes a very far way with our officers, and we just want to say thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, we'll move on to the minutes. Minutes of the regular city council meeting of June 24th, 2024. I have a motion from Councilmember Camacho and a second by Councilmember Stang. Any discussion on the minutes? Please cast your votes. That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have the consent agenda, authorized disbursements that have been or will be made from June 16th, 2024 to June 30th, 2024 in the amount of $748,026.23 per the reference and attached transfer of funds. I have a motion from Councilmember Moreno and a second from Councilmember Lopez. Any discussion or questions on the consent agenda? Please cast your votes. That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have items for individual consideration. We have Resolution 18-2024, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sheridan approving an increase regarding the volunteer firefighter pension benefits. I have a motion from Councilmember Whitaker, second by Councilmember Kelly. Any discussion or questions on Resolution 18? Please cast your votes. Next, we have Mayor's Choice. I wanted to just mention, I saw in the Denver Post today that Colorado is #1 in the US for municipal women in office. 46%, 46.1%, I think it was. So I think that's great. We used to have more women up here. Maybe that'll happen again soon, but not that I don't enjoy all you gentlemen, but it's good to have, a little bit of equal representation. Right? But anyway, I thought that was a great, feather in Colorado's cap to have so many women involved in politics. So.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to mention, I don't think we shared this before, Devin, is that the new homeless coordinator has been hired.
Good.
Right?
Yes, yes, and
It's
I'm.
Jessica Diani Cox.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, I met
hopefully-
with her last week, at least, so she's just come on board, kind of just starting to make the rounds, get her feet wet, meet people, come up to speed on things, so, really excited though, what she can do for the Tri-Cities, and I know she's excited to get going, and, I don't see us, Mike was great, Mike Sangren, wonderful things for us, and I think with her coming on, we're not going to see a drop off, and hopefully she'll be able to just kind of, we won't have too much lag time. Anytime somebody comes on, there's a little bit of drinking from the fire hose and getting up to speed, right, on that kind of thing. So she's busy doing that, but I see us, continuing to just move forward with that agenda with the Tri-Cities.
Yeah, I think what I heard, and I think you might have seen her resume. I didn't actually read the resume, but she has more housing related experience, right?
She does. So she has a good amount, a very varied background, but has some good housing background and contacts and experience. So I think that'll definitely help with the focus on where we're going with the Tri-Cities.
Great. Okay, that's all I have. Anybody have anything else to share?
I do.
Go ahead.
Unless someone else wants to go first. I just wanted to report on CML. I went to the Colorado Municipal League the week before last, and it was really an amazing opportunity to go. There was a lot of women. You could see that it was half women. It was really, really neat. A very balanced culture. But there was a lot of talk about homelessness and housing. And our Tri-Cities Navigation Center was brought up, and I think it's going to be the model for a lot of other cities. Really neat to be a part of, you know,
Mhm.
what you've accomplished, what the city's accomplished with it, and made me really proud. Nobody really seems to know where Sheridan is, though. And I think it's in Wyoming or something weird, but what I wanted to share was the keynote speaker, running back Justin Forsett, had an amazing message that was greatness grows in the shadows. And what he said was, what are you doing in the shadows to better yourself? And that determines, you know, what's good and what becomes great. I found it really motivating, and Justin Forsett was an amazing speaker. I did have something local that I just wanted to find out about. What are we doing with the Oxford medians? I noticed that all of the, you know, kind of things that mark that there's a curb there are gone. Are we going to paint them, redo them?
We did include some money in the budget to do the painting that you talked about, so we'll be looking at doing that. I know, and then Randy had a few other things that ideas he had on it, but it would be at a minimum doing the painting that we did, kind of similar to what you brought up that was done down on
Bellevue.
Bellevue, was it? Yes, thank you. Yeah, similar to that, and be able, we can do that for sure. And then looking at other options for any kind of reflective, you know, types of things on there.
When?
I don't have a time frame, but I'll find out for you.
Good.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Chief said about doing a ride along. I did that last week, and it was really eye-opening to see different perspective of the community and just see what the officers have to deal with on a daily basis. And it's great. I suggest anyone that hasn't had that opportunity get with Chief and schedule one.
Was there any action during your time?
There were a few things. Yeah, there were a few traffic stops and yeah, nothing crazy that I wanted to be involved with, but definitely things. Another good thing I did witness was we visited some businesses and saw how the relationship with the police really is going hand in hand, and just got to see that even though that there's maybe theft at one business, they welcome the officers to come in and help try to prevent that or do what they can to mitigate some of that. So great working relationships.
Awesome. Glad you got to have that experience. Anybody else have anything to share? No. Okay, then we have public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to council tonight? You get 2 minutes. Come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Stang. 3398 South Elliott Street is my address. Wanted to thank you for the time. Really commend you on that the invocation. That was beautiful. And in kind of the spirit of that, as I came by today, I wanted also to welcome my neighbor and Mr. Anthony Lopez. Sorry, I missed you on some of the other ones. And I actually found out right before coming that I wasn't asked for a letter of support in the application itself, but I kind of was coming by to address a potential letter of support from the city. And maybe since I don't even need it, but I still would like to, go ahead and bring it up because it would be of concern. There's a called a working group. There's sort of a foundation that's been around for about the last 4 years. They've been doing these very strong innovative funds, and they're really focused on any AI businesses and climate, especially climate focus, climate justice. So of course I'm involved a lot with the groundworks, and then as an innovative idea, what I was sending to the application is the potential for this a local cooperative. I worked with a group called Community Wealth Building, and cooperative business models are great for small businesses that can't afford a lot of big stuff. So the idea was maybe a cooperative of small businesses within Sheridan that do a lot of like landscape and taking care of gardens and easements and things like what the youth do so it would be sort of a way of them to graduate and then come into becoming entrepreneurs. And so the idea, of course, I have more questions than I have any answers, but it would look at potentially going along to help out in the future with taking care of parks and recs and doing things like that. And so I was just coming by to share that with the city. I just kind of drafted a letter, then it didn't have a place in the application for a letter, but but I thought I'd bring it up, and that way, it's sort of a chance to get everybody's ear on it. I'm sure that Devin would be somebody to talk further on if the application is accepted, and I'll definitely keep you guys in touch with that.
Yeah.
But keep up the great work, and thanks for everything you
Thank
do.
you.
Welcome
Yeah.
everybody.
Please,
Thanks, Deb.
yeah, please feel free to send materials to Devin and
Just trying
and
to get
me.
me on a ride along, but I get too many flashbacks. So. I did mean, you won't be in the back, you'll be in the front, but there's, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for being here. All right. Anybody else want to speak to council tonight? Okay, then we'll adjourn. The time is 7:14 p.m. Thank you all for being here.
Our school board just canceled all January, all July. We said no.